The acrid smell of smoke still clung to Sophia Martinez's hair 3 days after the fire. She sat on the steps of Millfield's only church, her few salvaged belongings in a torn duffel bag beside her. The burns on her left arm throbbed beneath the fresh bandages, but not as much as the hollow ache in her chest. "I'm sorry, honey, but we just don't have space." Mrs. Henderson from the church committee looked genuinely apologetic. "The shelter in Austin might. Austin's 2 hours away," Sophia whispered, staring at her hands. "I don't have a car anymore. The fire had taken everything. Her apartment, her job at the diner when it burned too. Even her identification all gone in the blaze that started when her neighbor's illegal hot plate sparked. The insurance company was stalling, and the $23 in her pocket wouldn't get her fired up." Mrs. Henderson squeezed her shoulder gently. "I'll keep asking around. Someone will help." But as the church committee members dispersed, Sophia noticed how they avoided looking directly at her. The burns weren't that bad. The doctor had said she was lucky. But people saw the bandages, heard about the fire, and suddenly found reasons to hurry away. The sun was setting when she heard the rumble of an old pickup truck. A man climbed out tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a faded denim shirt and a hat pulled low over his eyes. He moved with the careful economy of someone used to working alone. "You're the one from the fire," he said. Not a question. Sophia looked up, expecting to see the familiar mixture of pity and discomfort. Instead, she found steady brown eyes that held something else: recognition, maybe. Understanding. "I'm Sophia Martinez." She stood, swaying slightly from exhaustion. "Jake Coleman. I heard you need a place to stay. The church committee said there wasn't any room. Not asking them. I'm asking you." He gestured toward his truck. "I've got a ranch about 15 miles out. Guest room, if you want it." Sophia studied his weathered face, searching for ulterior motives. She'd learned to be careful, especially after David. But this man's offer felt different, straightforward. No strings attached. "Why would you help me?" "You don't even know me." Jake was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe because I know what it's like when nobody else will." Something in his voice made her decision. She picked up her bag. "Okay." The drive to Coleman Ranch passed in comfortable silence. Sophia watched the landscape change from small-town streets to rolling hills dotted with cattle. When they pulled up to a modest 2-story farmhouse, she felt something ease in her chest for the first time in days. "It's not much," Jake said, carrying her bag to the porch. "But it's quiet." The house was clean and simply furnished. Jake showed her to a small bedroom with a window overlooking the pasture. "Bathrooms down the hall. Kitchen's downstairs. Help yourself to whatever." "I can't pay you," Sophia said quietly. "Not right now. Didn't ask you to." He paused in the doorway. "There's salve in the medicine cabinet. Doctor said you'd need to change those bandages regularly." After he left, Sophia sat on the bed and finally let herself cry. Not the desperate sobs of the past few days, but quieter tears of relief. For the first time since the fire, she felt safe. She woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. Downstairs, Jake was at the stove, his movements efficient and practiced. He looked up when she entered, taking in her wrinkled clothes and tangled hair without comment. "Coffee's fresh," he said. Nodding toward the pot, Sophia poured herself a cup, savoring the warmth between her palms. "Thank you. For last night, for this morning, for everything." "You're welcome." He slid a plate across the counter to her. "Eat something." They ate in companionable silence, the only sounds the tick of the kitchen clock and the occasional lowing of cattle outside. Sophia found herself studying Jake's face when he wasn't looking. There were lines around his eyes that spoke of years in the sun, and something guarded in his expression that she recognized. "What kind of ranch is this?" she asked. "Cattle, mostly. Some horses." He refilled his coffee. Been in my family 40 years. Just you running it? Just me. The way he said it suggested it was a conscious choice. After breakfast, Jake headed out to work, leaving Sophia alone in the house. She spent the morning exploring carefully, not wanting to overstep boundaries. The house felt lived in, but lonely. No photographs on the walls. No personal touches that suggested anyone else had ever been here. Around noon, she ventured onto the back porch and saw Jake in the distance, mending fence. The sun was brutal, and she could see him sweating through his shirt. Without thinking, she filled a thermos with ice water and walked out to him. "Thought you might be thirsty," she said, offering the thermos. Jake straightened, surprised. "Thanks." He drank deeply, water droplets running down his chin. "You don't have to. I know." She watched him work for a moment. "I used to help my grandfather on his farm in Mexico, before we moved to the States. This is different from Mexico. Work is work." She picked up a pair of wire cutters. "May I?" Jake hesitated, then nodded. They worked side by side for the next hour, and Sophia found herself relaxing for the first time in months. The physical labor felt good, purposeful. When Jake's hand accidentally brushed hers as they reached for the same tool, she didn't flinch away. That evening, she cooked dinner as a thank you. Jake came in dusty and tired, stopping short when he saw the table set for two. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to." Sophia ladled chicken and rice onto his plate. "It's not much, but it's been a long time since anyone cooked for me," Jake said quietly. They talked more over dinner. Sophia learned that Jake had inherited the ranch from his father, that he'd never married, that he preferred the company of animals to most people. She told him about her job at the diner, about growing up in San Antonio, carefully avoiding mention of David, and the real reason she'd moved to Millfield. "The burns," Jake said suddenly. "They hurt?" Sophia touched her bandaged arm self-consciously. "Not as much as they did. The doctor said they should heal clean." "Good." He met her eyes. "Scars fade?" Something in his tone made her look closer. In the lamplight, she could see faint marks along his jaw, old and silvered with time. "What happened?" she asked gently. Jake's hand moved instinctively to his face. "Car accident. Long time ago. I'm sorry. Like I said, scars fade." But Sophia was beginning to understand that some scars went deeper than skin. Over the following days, they fell into an easy routine. Sophia helped with the ranch work, feeding chickens, mending equipment, cooking meals. Jake never asked her about her plans or when she might leave. The unspoken understanding was that she could stay as long as she needed. She was cleaning the kitchen. After lunch, when she found the photograph tucked behind the sugar canister, a family portrait, clearly old. A younger Jake stood beside a pretty blonde woman, their arms around a little girl with pigtails. "That's my wife and daughter." Sophia spun around, the photo still in her hands. Jake stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "I'm sorry, I wasn't snooping." "It's okay." He took the picture gently. "Emma and Lily. They died in the accident I told you about. 7 years ago." The pain in his voice made Sophia's chest tighten. "Jake, I'm so sorry. I was driving." His thumb traced the edge of the photo. Black ice. Lost control. He looked up at her. "That's why I live alone. Why I don't get close to people anymore." Sophia understood now the careful distance he maintained, the way he seemed surprised by simple kindness. "But you helped me. Maybe because you looked like someone who understood loss." She wanted to tell him then about David, about the real reason she'd come to Millfield, about the fear that still woke her up at night. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, she reached out and touched his hand. "Thank you for trusting me with this." Jake looked down at their joined hands, and for a moment, something shifted between them. The air felt charged, full of possibility. Then he stepped back, carefully replacing the photograph. I should get back to work. That night, Sophia lay awake, thinking about the grief she'd seen in Jake's eyes, the way his whole body had tensed when she touched him. She was beginning to care about this quiet, wounded man more than was wise for someone with her own secrets. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Sophia was hanging laundry when she heard car doors slam. 2 men in suits were walking up to the house, one she didn't recognize, and one she hoped never to see again. David Martinez stood on Jake's porch, his expensive shoes and perfectly styled hair completely out of place. Beside him was a man with cold eyes who had to be his lawyer. Sophia's hands shook as she dropped the wet sheet back into the basket. She'd known this moment would come eventually, but she'd hoped for more time. Sophia! David's voice carried that false warmth she remembered too well. There you are, baby. I've been worried sick. Jake emerged from the barn, taking in the scene with sharp eyes. He moved to stand between Sophia and the visitors, his posture protective. You're on private property, he said calmly. David's smile didn't waver. I'm David Martinez, Sophia's husband. I'm here to take her home. Ex-husband, Sophia managed, stepping out from behind the clothesline. The divorce was final 6 months ago. Now, Sophia, you know that was just a misunderstanding. We can work things out. David's tone was reasonable, but Sophia caught the steel underneath. You've caused enough trouble running off like this. She's not going anywhere she doesn't want to go, Jake said quietly. David sized up the rancher with calculating eyes. And you are? The owner of this property, which you need to leave. Not without my wife. Ex-wife, Sophia repeated, finding her voice. And I'm not going with you, David. David's mask slipped slightly. Don't be ridiculous. Look at this place, Sophia. Look at yourself. His gaze raked over her work clothes, her healing burns. This isn't you. You belong with me in a real home. This is my home now. For how long? David laughed harshly. Until he gets tired of your charity case act? Until he finds out what you really are? Sophia flinched, and Jake stepped forward. I think it's time for you to leave. The lawyer spoke for the first time. My client has legal rights. Mrs. Martinez is still listed as his emergency contact, and given her recent difficulties, he has grounds to petition for a mental health evaluation. That's ridiculous, Sophia breathed. Is it? David's voice turned cruel. You've been living like a vagrant, Sophia. Homeless, unemployed, dependent on strangers. A judge might find that concerning. Jake's hands clenched into fists. Get off my property now. We'll be back, David said, his reasonable mask firmly back in place. Sophia, think about what I said. You know I always get what I want. After they left, Sophia sank onto the porch steps, shaking. Jake sat beside her, careful not to touch, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. Ex-husband, he said quietly. It wasn't a good marriage. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself. The divorce was ugly. He didn't want to let me go. Is that why you came to Millfield? I thought I'd be safe here. Small town, new start. She laughed bitterly. I should have known he'd find me. What does he want? Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Control. He always needs to control everything, everyone around him. When I left him, I took that away. Jake studied her profile. What aren't you telling me? She looked at him then, seeing the concern in his brown eyes, the way he was holding himself ready to protect her. The truth spilled out before she could stop it. He used to hit me. Not often, not at first. Just when he was angry, when I said the wrong thing, or didn't do something the way he wanted. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The fire wasn't an accident. I think he said it. Jake went very still. What? I can't prove it. But David knew about the building's electrical problems. He's in real estate development. And he called me the day before, angry because I wouldn't meet with him. Tears started falling. 15 people lost their homes because of me. Sophia, look at me. Jake's voice was firm but gentle. If he set that fire, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault, isn't it? One married him. I stayed too long. I came here and brought danger with me. Stop. Jake caught her hands, his touch warm and steady. You survived. You got out. That takes courage. I don't feel very courageous. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what you need to do anyway. His thumbs brushed over her knuckles. You're stronger than you think. Looking into his eyes, Sophia felt something shift inside her chest. This man who'd lost everything, who'd closed himself off from the world, was offering her strength and comfort without asking for anything in return. Jake, she whispered. Yeah? I'm scared. I know. He squeezed her hands gently. But you're not alone anymore. That night, neither of them slept well. Sophia kept thinking about David's threats, about the lawyer's cold calculation of her vulnerabilities. Jake paced the kitchen until dawn, his mind racing through possibilities and plans. Over breakfast, he laid out his thoughts. We need to document everything. Get copies of your divorce papers, medical records from the fire. Build a case that shows you're stable, not the person they're trying to paint you as. David has money connections. His lawyer, money isn't everything. Jake's jaw was set with determination. We'll find a way to fight this. We? He met her eyes across the table. If you want my help. Sophia felt her throat tighten with emotion. Why? Why would you do this for me? Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup. Because 7 years ago, I lost the people I loved most. I couldn't protect them. He looked up at her. But I can protect you. The simple declaration hit Sophia like a physical blow. She saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't just about helping a friend. Something deeper had grown between them, something that scared and thrilled her in equal measure. Jake, ... I know it's complicated, he said quickly. I know you just got out of a bad marriage, and I haven't been good at this kind of thing for a long time. But Sophia, what I feel for you. She stood up and walked around the table, her heart hammering. Jake looked up at her with such vulnerability that she couldn't breathe. What do you feel? She whispered. Like I'm alive again. Like maybe I deserve a second chance. His voice was rough with emotion. I love you, Sophia. She cupped his face in her hands, feeling the slight roughness of his morning stubble, the warmth of his skin. I love you too. When he kissed her, it was gentle and desperate at the same time. Sophia felt years of loneliness and fear melt away, replaced by something bright and hopeful. Jake's arms came around her, holding her like she was precious, like she was home. We'll figure this out, he murmured against her lips. Whatever it takes. But their moment of peace was shattered by the sound of sirens. Through the kitchen window, they could see smoke rising from the direction of town. Jake's face went pale. The feed store, he said, grabbing his keys. If it spreads to the grain elevator, ... They drove toward town in tense silence, the smoke getting thicker as they got closer. But it wasn't the feed store burning. It was the small apartment complex where Sophia had been looking for a place to rent before moving to the ranch. My God, Sophia breathed, watching firefighters battle the blaze. That's exactly like a building where you lived before. Jake's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. This isn't a coincidence. A police officer approached their truck. You folks need to move along. This is a crime scene? Crime scene? Sophia's voice cracked. Arson, Someone doused the building with accelerant. The officer's expression was grim. Lucky it was mostly empty, or we'd have bodies. As they drove back to the ranch, Sophia's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Still think you're safer there? Come home, Sophia. Before someone gets hurt. Jake read the message over her shoulder, his face hard with anger. We're calling the police. And tell them what? That my ex-husband sent me a threatening text? That I suspect him of arson, but can't prove it? Sophia shook her head. David's too smart to leave evidence. And we make him. What do you mean? Jake pulled into the ranch driveway, his mind already working. He wants you back, right? He needs to control you. So we give him what he wants a chance to try. Jake, no. It's too dangerous. Not if we do it right. Set up a meeting, somewhere public. Get him talking. Maybe get him to confess. Jake turned to face her fully. But we do it with backup. Police, recording devices, everything we need to put him away. Sophia stared at him. You're talking about using me as bait. I'm talking about taking back your life. His voice was fierce. I'm talking about making sure he can never hurt you or anyone else again. It was a terrifying proposition. But as Sophia thought about the apartment building burning, about the other innocent people David might target, she realized Jake was right. Okay, she whispered. Let's do it. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Jake contacted his lawyer, who put them in touch with a detective who'd been investigating a string of suspicious fires. Sophia practiced what she would say, how she would get David to reveal his involvement. But underneath the planning and preparation, something else was happening. The crisis had stripped away their last defenses, leaving them raw and honest with each other. Jake told her about the nightmares that still woke him, about the guilt that had kept him isolated for so long. Sophia shared the details of her marriage's slow deterioration, the fear that had become her constant companion. I used to think I deserved it, she admitted one evening as they sat on the porch swing. The way he treated me. Like maybe I wasn't worth better. You deserve everything good in this world, Jake said fiercely. Don't ever doubt that, even with all my baggage? All the trouble I've brought you? Jake turned to face her fully. Sophia, you brought light back into my life. You made me remember what it felt like to hope for something beyond just getting through each day. He took her hands. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that these past weeks with you have been the best I've had in 7 years. She kissed him then, pouring all her love and gratitude into the contact. Tomorrow would bring danger and uncertainty, but tonight they had each other. The meeting was set for the next afternoon at Millfield's main diner. Sophia arrived early, the wire taped to her chest feeling foreign and obvious. Detective Morrison and 2 other officers were stationed around the restaurant, and Jake waited in his truck across the street, close enough to intervene if needed. David arrived precisely on time, looking polished and confident. He slid into the booth across from her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. You look tired, Sophia. This rustic lifestyle isn't suiting you. I'm fine, David. Better than I've been in years. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a woman who's been through hell. He leaned forward. The fire, living in charity, depending on strangers. This isn't the life you want. How would you know what I want? Because I know you, Sophia. Better than you know yourself. His voice took on that reasonable tone she remembered. You're not strong enough to make it on your own. You never were. Sophia felt her temper flare. I've been making it just fine. Have you? Because it seems like everywhere you go, bad things happen. Fires, accidents. David's smile turned cold. Almost like someone sending you a message. What kind of message? That you belong with me. That fighting me only hurts innocent people. He reached across the table to touch her hand. How many more buildings have to burn, Sophia? How many more people have to lose their homes because you're too stubborn to come back where you belong? Sophia forced herself not to pull away. Are you saying you set those fires? David's laugh was genuinely amused. Me? I'm a businessman, not an arsonist. But I do have ... connections. People who understand that sometimes you have to send a strong message to get through to someone. You're threatening me. I'm protecting you. From yourself, from the consequences of your choices. His grip on her hand tightened. Come home with me now, Sophia. End this nonsense before someone gets seriously hurt. And if I don't? David's mask slipped completely. Then I'll make sure your cowboy boyfriend learns what happens to people who interfere with my family. That ranch of his, all those dry fields and wooden buildings. Fires spread so quickly in the country. Sophia's blood ran cold. You can't. I can do whatever I want. I have money, influence, people who owe me favors. He leaned closer. But I'd rather not. I'd rather just take my wife home. I'm not your wife anymore. You'll always be mine, Sophia. One way or another. That was when Detective Morrison appeared beside their table. David Martinez, you're under arrest for arson and making terroristic threats. David's face went white as the detective read him his rights. This is entrapment. You can't, we can, and we are. Morrison gestured to the other officers. We've got everything on tape, Mr. Martinez. Your threats, your confession to hiring arsonists. That's enough to put you away for a long time. As they led David away in handcuffs, he looked back at Sophia with pure hatred. This isn't over. But Sophia knew it was. For the first time in years, she felt truly free. Jake was waiting for her outside the diner, his face tight with worry. Are you okay? I'm perfect, she said, and meant it. 6 months later, Sophia stood on the porch of the farmhouse, watching Jake work with a new colt in the corral. David was serving a 15-year sentence for arson and racketeering. The investigation into his business dealings had uncovered a web of corruption and violence that went far beyond what they'd imagined. The insurance settlement had finally come through, giving Sophia enough money to truly start over. She'd used part of it to buy into the ranch as Jake's partner, both in business and in life. Mrs. Coleman, Jake called from the corral, grinning at her. Could you grab the halter from the barn? Sophia smiled, the new name still sending warmth through her chest. They'd been married for 2 months now, a simple ceremony in the same church where she'd once sat desperate and alone. As she walked to the barn, she caught sight of her reflection in the window. The scars from the fire were barely visible now, thin silver lines that told the story of her survival. She was stronger than she'd ever been, confident in a way that had nothing to do with anyone else's opinion. Here's your halter, husband, she called, walking back to Jake. He finished with the colt and met her at the fence, pulling her into his arms. I love it when you call me that. Good, because you're stuck with me now. Best thing that ever happened to me, Jake murmured, kissing her forehead. Sophia looked around at the ranch that had become her sanctuary, at the man who'd helped her find her strength, at the life they were building together. The future stretched ahead of them, bright with possibility. I love you, Jake Coleman. I love you too, Sophia Coleman, forever. As the sun set over the rolling hills of their ranch, Sophia knew she was finally, truly home.